Oh, hey. Didn't see you there. I was too busy being a little silly. A little different from other people. Do I seem relatable in my quirkiness to you? Well, I shouldn't be, because I'm a unique individual who reads books. You see, this isn't something that I wore to make myself stand out. Oh, no, no, no. I'm wearing this because I was cursed by a witch. I told her that I wasn't like other girls, and now I physically can't take this off. The only way I was told I could break the spell is if I reflected on my own biases about femininity by making a video essay pertaining to shoujo manga. This witch was extremely specific to my own niche. We've probably all heard someone use the phrase, "You're not like other girls." It could have been a line in a movie you were watching, said by a friend in high school, or maybe you've even said it yourself. It's not an uncommon thing to have heard at some point in your life. In fact, the differentiation of girls into them or the other is such a popular phenomenon that whole subreddits have been dedicated to it, on top of hundreds of YouTubers having jumped on this topic over the last 4 years. So really, once again, I am making a video on a played out concept. Usually the phrase, "you're not like other girls," is uttered as a compliment, meant to be said to a girl who doesn't fit what the traditional idea of a girl should be. This girl, who is unlike other girls, is cool. She's smart. She doesn't put that much effort into her appearance. She reads books and likes pizza. This girl is the epitome of the monologue by Amy Dunn in Gone Girl.
Cool girl is hot. Cool girl is game. Cool girl is fun. Cool girl never gets angry at her man. She likes what he likes. So evidently, he's a vinyl hipster who loves fetish manga.
Then, if not being like other girls is meant to be a compliment, this means that being like other girls is something you don't want. They're the complete opposite of an individual capable of unique thought. They're basic. Other girls care about makeup. They like fashion and talk about their bias in pop groups. There's nothing going on up in their little heads except for the bleach sloshing around in the empty crevices.
I mean, you used to care more about what was inside your head instead of on it. Come on, Mia, fess up. I don't know where you are these days, and now you're turning into an A-crowd wannabe?
If life were like a typical teen rom-com, then the other girl is the preppy, mean cheerleader. This is the kind of girl who has a hot boy on her arm who just doesn't know what's better for him yet. She's only known for her looks and nothing else. She wears short skirts, but you're not like her. You wear t-shirts. She may be cheer captain, but you're at home, writing the Communist Manifesto. You're Karl Marx, goddammit, and don't you ever forget it. Girls are seen as highly emotional, and because of this, they can't be presidents or leaders. What if they get their periods and hit nuclear weapons buttons like they're in goddamn Fairly Odd Parents?
Whatever you do, don't touch that big red button next to the salt!
You mean this button?
Girls are seen as more stupider. Their tiny little girl brains can't do highly intelligent boy math. Math like calculating how they're 6 feet tall but still looking up at a girl who is also 6 feet tall. Our society looks down upon the other girl, partially because we view any sign of non-individualism as a bad thing, but also because anything traditionally feminine is seen as negative. Femininity is not seen as a desirable quality where the patriarchy reigns. Pink is bad, loving fashion is bad, K-pop is bad, pumpkin spice lattes are bad. Anything denoting someone's femininity or teen girlhood is to be scoffed at. We laugh at girls who fit a stereotype. We don't want to be like them because who wants to like girly things when masculine traits or qualities are available to us instead? Those are what we should truly desire. At the same time though, girls are forced into adhering to these standards if they want success or approval at some point in their lives. If an AFAB person leans too far into masculine traits or appearances, they're chided for going against the grain. Short hair isn't for girls. Why would you do that to yourself? Wear too much makeup to work and you're seen as gaudy, but if you don't wear any makeup to work, you're seen as sloppy. Go home and look presentable. We can't take a woman seriously unless she spends the appropriate 2 hours to look like she just rolled out of bed. The societal hatred of women and overall negativity towards femininity makes makes us want to distance ourselves from it. Being not like the other girls is a good thing to a lot of people because they see how girls are treated in society. They want to be seen as a whole person with thoughts and feelings, not just some vapid doll to be ogled at. Teens don't always have the best way of expressing themselves, so when they say, "I'm not like other girls," it might be the best way for them to say, "I don't want to conform into societal standards of what they think a girl should be." Still though, the outcome does lead to belittling those who fit the mold, whether they're conforming on purpose or not. Now, you're probably wondering, how the hell does this relate to shoujo manga? Colleen, you've spent another 5 minutes teaching me about the basics of sexism again. Well, to that I say, I was gonna tell you, but now, since you're complaining, I'm not going to. Okay, I'm kidding, I'll tell you. The negativity towards femininity oozes into all parts of our society, playing a huge contribution into how media made with girls in mind is viewed. In the same way that the other girl is bad, we don't want our media to play into typical femininity. I must confess I am having such a hard time saying femininity. It's like the anemone of this essay. Books by women are often deemed as solely romance and called chick lit instead of, I don't know, literature. Movies made for women are pushed as rom-coms and called chick flicks instead of, I don't know, movies. Girl games are pink and focus on dressing up characters. Yet somehow that's not considered peak gaming. I would waste 10 hours on the Barbie dress-up games. Media centered on women or overtly feminine are othered in every iteration. I want to be clear here that I don't think there's anything wrong with knowing the demographic that you are trying to market your media to. Clearly, as someone who adamantly defends shoujo being a demographic of manga, I don't think it's wrong to know who you want to sell your things to. However, the issue often arises that knowing this market, knowing the demographic that you are trying to sell to, it gets belittled or othered. Like in my examples, I say books and movies, as well as video games. You could also say sports get othered. You'll also see a lot that many books written by women or having female protagonists are marketed or sold as YA instead of just books. I feel like YA is kind of becoming our new chick lit word. This can also be seen in how people in the manga community review or even talk about shoujo manga. As always, I'll give the disclaimer that shoujo manga is stereotyped as high school romance. That doesn't mean that's what it actually is. Shoujo is just manga that is usually geared towards girls from their preteens to early 20s. However, even with that knowledge, that doesn't stop people from seeing a feminine demographic of media as fitting the mold of what girls are meant to be. You can already kind of see that in the way that shoujo manga protagonists are often discussed. They're looked at on a purely surface level in the same way that many female protagonists in film or literature are. How strong is this shoujo girl? Not in the strength of her character or writing, but in her physical strength. We only think a female character is good if she has those desirable masculine traits after all. This shoujo girl can't show weakness or emotion, otherwise she's an annoying damsel in distress. If we even see a hint of her lacking confidence, being shy or timid, then she needs to grow a backbone already. Don't even get me started on if she voices her desire to be loved. That means she's clingy. These shoujo girls are hated because their traits are too stereotypically feminine. We don't view these as positive or even neutral qualities. These are bad. We shouldn't want to be like these shoujo girls, and in fact, they shouldn't even exist. Unlike those characters portrayed in shoujo, we're smart and confident. Miscommunication? I only know about healthy therapy speech, especially at the age of 16, where notoriously teenagers have always been self-assured and mature. When looking at how shoujo girls are talked about, we also start to see how shoujo manga as a whole is viewed in the same way. Particularly if you even spend a few minutes looking at review sites. I pulled most of the quotes that I'm using for this video from Amazon, my anime list, Goodreads, and even just a few blogs that I found when searching. Instead of the phrase, "not like other girls," you start to see the phrase, "not your typical shoujo." It was such a prevalent phrase that all I really had to do to find pull quotes for this video was hit Command F and type in shoujo. Pretty much any review that used the word shoujo used it in that way. Much like how being not like other girls is a compliment, not being a typical shoujo is also a compliment. The typical shoujo are romantic and cheesy. They're shallow with no meaning behind the words on the page. These shoujo manga that are, mind you, often made by women are unrealistic, unoriginal, full of cliches, and not even worth a second mention. You don't want to be a typical shoujo, because typical shoujo are ones that girls like. Full of those icky feminine traits that no one wants to be associated with. Not these shoujo manga though. All those other ones, yeah, those suck. But this one is the exception to the rule. They aren't like other shoujo manga because this shoujo manga has male approval. It has stereotypically masculine traits like violence, aggression, and no emotions. The art isn't pretty at all. There's no sparkles, no big eyes, and no flowers. Which is a good thing, because those are too feminine. It's clear that when shoujo is talked about in this way, it is just leaning into the hatred of femininity, often coming from a place of misogyny, internalized or not. Shoujo is bad because femininity is bad. Shoujo that have action and adventure are cool shoujo. These are shoujo that are one of the boys. Series like Banana Fish, Yona of the Dawn, or Tokyo Crazy Paradise can hang with the guys. They've been stripped of whatever feminine attributes they may contain, like their more poetic, heartfelt storytelling or pretty sparkly artwork, because they are now approved. They aren't actually shoujo, and in fact, they must be mislabeled because nothing this cool or violent could be for girls. They're outliers because, as we all know, pure shoujo are slice of life romance series. Even with some seemingly atypical attributes, these series that people think aren't shoujo are actually incredibly shoujo. Some may think that Yona of the Dawn is too politically driven to be a shoujo manga, but it really just draws inspiration from Basara and Rose of Versailles before it, showing a young girl learning about the struggles of the common people and leading others to make change in her country. There is just as much emotion and sparkly backgrounds in Yona as there is in any other shoujo series. You can also doubly see the hypocrisy when you go and look at the reviews for Basara as well. Many people saying that it's not a typical shoujo series. Tokyo Crazy Paradise was also mentioned several times for basically being a shonen because of its gang fights, and as we all know, action can't be shoujo. Except it very much can be. This series came out in the same year as other action shoujo titles like Musashi No. 9, Night of the Beast, and Yasha. It's not uncommon for shoujo to throw some punches and pull out weapons. Girls enjoy their choreographed fight scenes just as much as anyone else does. Plus, once again, the art and story beats of Tokyo Crazy Paradise are quintessential shoujo. What is a more shoujo storyline than a girl dressing like a boy to fight people? The last one that people laud as not only being not like other shoujo, but also not even a shoujo is Banana Fish. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone that wouldn't fight you immediately on whether this series was shoujo or not, citing the heavy violence and sexual themes as being the reasons why girls could not be the target audience for this. While yes, Banana Fish is kind of unique for its heavy focus on shootouts, almost everything else about this series was inspired by shoujo that came before it. The BL undertones were heavily influenced by 70s shoujo mangaka Keiko Takemiya and Moto Hagio, who are known to be pioneers of that genre. A line could also be drawn between From Eroica with Love and Banana Fish as well, since they are both crime action series that have those BL aspects in it. Shoujo set in New York was getting a huge uptick in popularity a year prior due to the release of a series called Cypher. In the 70s and 80s, shoujo series about gangs or drugs with psychological elements was all the rage. When you look at the historical context, there is nothing about Banana Fish that wouldn't make it a shoujo. The insistence that these series can't be shoujo due to their masculine traits is all too familiar to how we categorize girls in real life. They're either pink-pilled, heels-coated females, Or you've talked to one for long enough that they had a magical girl transformation before your eyes into a fully realized human being. Shoujo are either flighty, vain romances, or you opened one up to realize that you've been listening to a narrative that was sold to you. It's either you or the other, and it can never be both. Girls and their interests can only be split into good and bad, which isn't dictated by the girls these narratives are for, but by people who think that girls are not smart enough to understand what's marketed to them. Typical girls, like typical shoujo, lack any depth. Typical girls, like typical shoujo, only care about boys and romance. We can't see girls and women as whole beings, and when we do, we have to make sure that we know that this woman is a wolf amongst a field of sheep, which is the exact same way that we talk about feminine media. It all comes back to how we perpetuate misogynistic stereotypes in our everyday because of the stereotypes set on anyone labeled female at birth. Shoujo is just as rich and full of creativity as a demographic like shonen or seinen. Yet shonen and seinen are not given the title of typical shonen in the same way. For shoujo, being good is an anomaly worthy of the title spider shoujo, but being peak is expected for any shonen and seinen title. Many people already go into a series that is marketed towards girls with the mindset that it will be bad. Sure, there are some elitist pricks out there who just want to seem cool and special for not liking series meant for young boys. They'll turn their nose up to shonen and say that it's for babies. But this name calling is the equivalent of being a virgin shonen enjoyer versus a seinen chad. It's not taken as seriously and isn't widely used to put down young boys and their interests. Rather, it's meant more as a pissing contest to see who's the most masculine of them all. The shonen they make fun of is too emotional, which is too close to femininity, and therefore must not be good. Boys don't cry. We are led to believe that to truly appreciate or enjoy anything that is feminine, we must first remove it from that label. To enjoy a shoujo, it can't be shoujo. It can't be like other shoujo no matter how much it actually is. It must be unique, special, and not like other shoujo to be enjoyed. But what if it is just like other shoujo? It has just as much depth, nuance, and originality like any other shoujo. What if the proximity to masculinity doesn't deem a series better than any other shoujo out there? There is no one standard for shoujo or feminine media, just like there's no one standard to being a girl. Sure, a shoujo may be typical, whatever that means, but that doesn't make it bad. A slice of life romance series can portray the everyday struggles or fantasies of some young person who doesn't have an outlet for it. It can give comfort by seeing themselves in the series that they're reading. Shoujo like Lovesick Ellie can show us that young girls can have desires and be a little cringy, but that doesn't make them weird or gross. A by-the-numbers high school series like Honey Lemon Soda can show us a young girl who's coming into her own as she grows as a person over time. They're a typical shoujo by any means, but there's still worth and value in something that is stereotypically feminine. Not every AFAB person should emulate or can emulate masculine traits comfortably enough to be deemed worthy. Emotions are a good thing that help you process your thoughts, and being physically weak doesn't make you less valuable as a person. Yes, the standard of girlhood is being forced upon us by such a young age, with pink being shoved in our faces and makeup being sold to toddlers. AFABs will never be able to perfectly fulfill the qualifications or stereotypes set upon them, leading us to vilify the very idea of femininity. However, negatively viewing anything feminine as less than doesn't really help us out either. It makes any young teen feel ashamed for something they might like, and in turn makes them shame others for these same things. Just like how girls in shoujo shouldn't be expected to be hyper-feminine stereotypes, they also shouldn't have to be hyper-masculine to avoid being like other girls. Oh my god, wait. It was right in front of my eyes this whole time. I'm not like other girls. Sorry, Hojos. I'm not like other girls. I'm not like other girls because throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one.